themselves.
Yeah, I think the last time they had TA2, they had the Sanking, and like the reason the TA looked so nice and active was because FBZ just gets his blink timing, and then he just links up with the Opage, and then they just go. And they're really great at playing around each other.
Yeah, I see Boom's draft. I'm like, yeah, these are good heroes to have with TA. Then I see the other draft. I'm like, well, TA into this doesn't look amazing, but should go fine. And that's where T1, I think this Pugna Medusa is actually a pretty good response. They're going to be playing more kind of slow, turtly, letting Boom run at them. But what they do have is pretty solid team fight. So it's not like Boom's going to run at them and then they just die or have to run away. They can still defend their towers with like the Mars plus Medusa.
Yeah, it's like, this looks like an awkward team for Boom to fight into right now, but at the same time, their timing is going to be way faster than T1's, so they do have the potential here to just run them over. Their supports are incredibly squishy. If they pick, like, Sanking with Blink is already going to be like quite a nuisance for them to deal with in fights, but if they pick a mid here that can jump like a Void Spirit, then this should be a really hard game for T1.
Yeah. Plus Boom playing on Radiant, so like that Roche control gets a whole lot easier. Something you'd expect them to get first, maybe even first 2 Roches in a game like this. And T1's going to be the team, like, you know, playing on more on the back foot. Actually, T1 banning up Brewmaster, kind of indicating that they're maybe expecting at least a potential mid-Sanking to come out.
Got to cover all bases, man. This is Boom. They've been flexing forever. It's really scary. You don't know what they're going to do.
And Brew is just so good against Dusa. Like, Dusa draft is just like Cyclone Dusa and fight everyone else.
T1 are like a team. They played the Sanking mid with the Coddle, and I think something that they showed off really well about it was even if Sanking gets like body mid or has a rough time, you kind of just like back off, meet up with your Coddle who stack camps for you, then you farm with the lowered cooldowns with the chakra, and you farm your blink like really, really fast. Like, your ability to recover as a Sanking mid is phenomenal when you have a keeper on your team. So I really like that there and the potential. Now I'm like looking at T1's lineup and I just think I would really like to see them pick this active mid that can play with the Hoodwink Mars Pugna and take a lot of fights.
On Boom, is there anything that you feel the team is missing when it comes to the pushing or the team fighting?
I think they're missing extra jump. Like for me, because their 2 supports are very passive. They don't have any stuns on their supports. I want like a little bit more jump, a little bit more catch.
For both teams, you're looking for someone who really can jump a little bit more when it comes to fights and initiations.
Yeah, I don't think T1 have to get jumpness for me, but I do think they want something to play around those heroes like Chipo said. Like, I could see them get like an Invoker type hero maybe to buff up the Medusa. Like,
even could be okay, like just to run around with Mars. It's like low cooldown, skirmish. Not sure.
You guys feel...
I think T1's pick honestly just depends on what Boom pick, because they don't know the mid matchup. Like, they're last picking a mid. So much of last picking your mid is what's your mid matchup. It could be a TA, it could be whatever Boom pick here. So I think realistically T1 have like 5 heroes they're choosing between and they don't know themselves. So like, we can speculate all we want, but I don't think T1 know what they're picking.
Yeah, like
100%.
Boom is I don't like the combination of Coddle Triumph before. We've seen it in the past, and I think it like lacked a lot. This is horrible. I hate it a lot. I want to die. All right. No.
I thought Boom were the best sheeper. What happened?
No.
Oh, I guess who's casting?
I know. I didn't want to bring that up just yet. But this Animage is a double whammy in so many ways. It's gonna be great. I don't even want you guys to talk about AM because I know exactly who I'm gonna ask. I know exactly who I need to hear an analysis about AM for. So instead, T1, what do you think is gonna be the retaliation for them?
So they could swing the Mars mid and get like the Slaughter type heroes. They ban Beastmaster themselves. I think you do want to address the AM with your last pick a bit. As far as heroes that address it, oh god, like, because if like all those in mid suddenly feeling a bit less appealing, Kunkka would have been good.
I'm like, okay, right now I'm thinking, I think Sanking Coddle should win their lane against Medusa Pugna. I think TA is probably gonna just have a fine time mid, and then Tree should protect Anti-Mage's farm. So they, I mean, he might get bodied by Hoodwink Mars. That's a really scary lane. However, I feel like at least 2 of their lanes are going to go even or win. So it's really important that Boom just like link up FBZ and Yopaj as soon as possible and like just make stuff happen on the map. Because it's hard for them to invade the Triangle and Medusa's farm, in my opinion, because their supports are like very passive-y. That's good.
That's a juicy one.
That's a juicy.
I like it. I like it. This is a. Oh man, T1 Boom is already living up to the hype.
100%.
Yeah.
Two great drafts. As I'm going to bring in two great casters. We are joined by Mike and John. And Mike,
Hi, Mike.
could you ever happen to guess at what question I'm going to ask you?
Look, I don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, Boom Esports have gone for this damn anti-mage, and now there's a Husker in the game for Carl. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I think the idea is, right, Jackie's going to go drain all the mana from this Dusa, and Yopaj is going to carry the game. That's what I'm thinking. There's no way this anti-mage works as a pos 1. We all know it. Yopaj is going to carry the game on this TA. I feel it.
Well, going away from the AM for a bit, I want to talk about the Pugna. We just saw it today when we were casting Div 2. Pugna plus Storm. It didn't work. But the great thing is that Life Drain will heal your Husker. It will heal you. So the little green guy going, yeah, baby, just heal him up in the middle of the fight. How can you stop that? It's great. I love T1. I love what they're doing. I'm sorry, Boom. Zach, we're going to have words after, but I like the Pugna and I like the Husker and Medusa. What can you do?
For you guys, then pick a team. And I'm also going to ask the same question I asked last time. How many kills? Because this seems like a high-action game is going to unfold.
1,000 kills.
I'm going T1. I don't think it's going to be that many kills. I think it's going to turn into like a Dusa farm, an AM farm, and no win fight game.
Yeah.
I actually think it's going to this may be a low action game, but I'm very hyped because it's going to feel like a bit of a chess match maybe.
I think like T1 have the... I like T1's draft more. However, if Boom execute their draft, they should win.
Alrighty. Well, Mike and John, please take us away into this hype series game 1.
Oh, thank you very much, Nat. It is the series everyone's been waiting for the whole Tour 2. Boom Esports versus T1, and it is, of course, MLP Dota and John X Cheater. Jonathan, you and I have some unfinished business, sir, from yesterday, but we'll talk about that later because we have a great series on our hands. Boom versus T1. You seem to believe in the T1 draft, and for once, I'm believing with the anti-mage draft. Well, what world are we living in?
I'm not sure, Mike, but hey, look, we just saw Pugna today. I will never get over what Febby did with Yoa. I will never get over the life drain for mana. You've got the Dusa. She could use mana as well. And Pugna's very sacrificial. You've got a Husker. You could also life drain out. I will avoid saying my favorite word, but life drain out the Husker, life drain out the Dusa. It's just great. And I'm going to be seeing that little green man just going like this. It's such a great animation. It's such a great hero. I can't cheer against Mike. I love it. What can you do?
Yeah, I know you do, John. I appreciate that. As we are going to get into game number 1. The Hyper Series of the tour set to get underway. Can't wait to see it. And I think Parker said it, right? This game seems like a chess match between these two teams. I don't think it's going to be that kind of fast-paced, aggressive style of gaming we've been watching recently. But I think it might be a bit more slower paced, a bit more methodical here. But I'm all up for it here, John. Just give me some good Dota.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think both sides read each other really well. They've played against each other multiple times. You saw them in Tour 1. T1 did take that series in Tour 1, but in the regional finals, Boom dropped the lower bracket from them and then beat them in the grand final. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of play with these two teams. Very closely matched. I'm just keen to see who does play that more strategic Dota, who finds those better engagements. My big worry, actually, is that, you give Yopaj his TA, but his TA has to deal with a Husker lane. Yeah, that doesn't sound comfy for a TA, Mike. Refraction's not going to do much. You're not going to be able to play with Psyblades as much. The Husker has a really good time mid. So, you said the AM's not going to be your win condition. The TA doesn't feel like it has a good time here.
Oh, look, John, I believe in the idol here. Cuckoo going to be able to take the bounty rune. That was, I believe, a 2-for-2 trade. So, very even kind of trade going on. I don't know. It's one of those things with Yopaj, right? Like, he has this very disadvantageous matchup with the Husker versus TA matchup. But when it's Yopaj playing, it's like, do you doubt it? Like, do you doubt he can't make it work?
Yeah, that's true. He's made multiple matchups work before. We'll see how much he can get out here. Obviously, level 1 for Yopaj. He can just play with Psyblades, harass out Carl. But look at those Burning Spears. They just stack up, and you can't really do much about that either. Although, Yopaj is still landing some good Psyblades. Mid matchup, melee matchup for a TA does feel really good with the Psyblades bounce.
Oh, it certainly does, Carl. Obviously, a great mid player in his own right here. We'll see what he does get done, as I'm sure this mid matchup's going to be the most spicy. But up at top lane, you've got Whitemon there on that +5 Pugna, one of your personal favorites, against FBZ and Tims. Of course, he'll be supporting Gabby on that position 1 Medusa. This laning stage, John, do you feel like T1 have it in the bag, or can Boom could do something about this Dusa?
I think for T1 it's a lot more defensive. It goes back to that Nether Ward, reducing some of that spell damage, 10% at level 1. Beyond that, Pugna doesn't really do much in lane. He's trading hits with Tims, so that is taking the edge off from the Kotl spamming out the Illuminate at the least, but you're likely not lining up for a kill opportunity unless Tims trades too hard. FBZ is still going to be able to find farm, but so is Gabby. Like, you're a ranged hero against Sand King, you've got Mystic Snake to play with. You can't really get harassed out with a Caustic Finale, and again, that Nether Ward just reduces your output anyway. So the Dusa is really fine just farming up here.
Yeah, and of course that final lane we should talk about the bot. Ooh, hold that thought, because Whitemon goes for a bit of a chase onto Tims, but won't have enough to really lock him down. We should have a quick look at that final lane. Of course, spot lane, Skem and Jackie going to be against Zephyr and Cuckoo. Of course, I'm sure a lot of people were expecting Cuckoo to maybe take the Husker himself back from those TNC days at TI, but, he doesn't. He gets the Mars this time around. But, John, do you feel like this bottom lane goes either way?
It feels a lot stronger for T1. Look what they've done. They've cut the tree line of Skem. He can't play on the left side of the lane. We've seen a lot of Treants not cope with that well. And they're doing great work. Zephyr has a Qualling Blade just to get that done. So there's not much zoning Skem can do. Jackie is still finding farm, and that is the good news. But they're not really slowing down Cuckoo, and the kill threat is still up there for T1. So you have to watch that level 3 spike. You have to watch the higher level God's Rebuke, the Value Point from the Spear, the Bushwhack. When some tree does respawn, it's going to be relatively easy to burst them down if you're not careful.
Yeah, going to be very exciting here as... Well, still 0 kills on the map. Looking back at mid lane there for a sec, John, Yopaj still doing just fine. Actually ahead of Carl in this mid matchup. So even with the Husker against him, he just doesn't seem to care very much. Playing very carefully here into Carl with the Null Strike. And as you can see, he does actually have the potential to fight back. Problem is, as soon as that refraction's gone, he is in trouble. As Carl, he might actually have a kill here. Japoi may have gone too far, but no. He will survive with the Fairy Fire. Things are starting to spice up in the mid lane, though.
Yeah, it's not comfy. This is the point where the Husker really starts to take over. You've got level 2 in the Berserker's Blood. Every time you trade like that, you feel a lot stronger. You can hit back, stack up the Burning Spears, and Yopaj can't do much about that. We're not even seeing support rotations in for the 4-minute rune. They're just going to leave it alone. Carl doesn't need the runes as much. When you do land the melds, it feels nice. Beyond that, Carl has massive windows to just hit back.
You see that classic armlet build as well for the Husker to come out on Carl later on. So, Whitemon going for a bit of a cheeky rotation around to the triangle, and this is something you definitely want to do against TA. Just put those wards down to block the camps if you can, as we are going to have a quick disconnection here from Jackie on the anti-mage. Speaking of the devil, it looks like he's having a very nice time down at bot lane farming right now. But going back to Whitemon, John, he's just probably going to put a sentry ward down on that large camp, or even the Ancients, and just make sure Tims can't start stacking them up for Yopaj.
And they've got to invest the resources to stop that. Even if you don't drop the sentries, you can just put your body forward. This is already disrupting Tim's movement, and we've seen Whitemon just be a constant nuisance up against that Keeper of Life. They are both high move speed supports without boots, so you can just run down here on the Pugna. He has slightly higher attack range, I do believe, 630 versus the 600, and we saw that again in the orb walking of Whitemon. You don't trade too well as the Keeper of Light there. So you can't even build up your resources for the TA. It's not a great feeling for the side of Boom. Both camps will be blocked. Really good movement from Whitemon, and that's all he needs to do. He doesn't even drop a sentry. He just walks up, disrupts it. That's another minute Tims has to spend here stacking up, leaving his Sand King solo.
Well, the positive about that, John, was Tims didn't actually see if he dropped the sentry, so there is a chance that Tims just wastes the sentry now trying to de-ward earlier on, but we'll see if he does do so. Tims obviously knowing the mind games that is to come out from Whitemon. These players have played against each other many, many times. BZ. Not going to try and go on to Whitemon, but he's going to be just fine. Gabby getting a little bit involved here with the Mystic Snake, but can't really do too much to help out. Speaking of Gabby, though, John, top of the CS board right now on the Medusa, and that's fantastic news for T1. Not really usual that you'd see Medusa at the top of the CS this early on, but that's exactly what's happening.
It's basically an uncontested lane. The Sand King just can't do too much against Dusa. Gap closing her is pretty difficult. You do have that combination with Burrow Strike and Illuminate, but we haven't seen Tims really stand there and look for that aggressive play. He does still want to play the triangle, and Whitemon's still disrupting that. And we'll see if they find that opportunity. They will go try now.
Gabby is pretty low on mana at the moment. FBZ, though, already using that Burrow Strike, won't be able to keep the attempt going. So Gabby just fine to pop the clarity and try to remain within that top lane as Whitemon will make his way back over. In the meantime, Yopaj struggling quite a bit here as expected. He does actually bring out his own wards as well. So it looks like he's already expecting some wards to be placed in those camps. And, well, naturally, he can't really stick around going against Carl here in this mid lane any longer. Though it does seem like he is still able to keep up in CS just fine. So, I don't know. I guess it's great for T1, but at the same time, the TA is still getting what he needs.
Still getting it at a slower pace. Network difference is a bit more drastic there for Yopaj. So we're going to have to see if they can catch up. Really like this ward coming out here from T1 on the ramp. No sentry being dropped for that. No clue that it's there. Gives a good angle for T1 to be aggressive on that mid, to collapse onto Yopaj if Carl sees that opening. They are playing tag a bit. Zephyr just poking around. There is some room here for Cuckoo to breathe a little bit more, but Jackie's at the point where he's fine on the AM. He has that Ring of Health up. He is going Vanguard first, so typical disassembly build. Jackie tends to enjoy that. He used to go SNY disassembly before when he was on Motivate Trust, like 2 years ago in that time frame, so something he's used to, and it's been a while for Jackie, but again, this is one of his special heroes. Even though you're not a believer, Mike, he's made it work before.
I mean, I did say Boom might win out with this draft, John. It's not that I'm not a believer, I just don't like the hero. It's as simple as that, Jonathan. Zephyr, still being very annoying, and I appreciate what the Hoodwink's doing, is just following around this TA and not allowing the solo XP to go the way of Yopaj. And look at that, he just keeps blocking camps. Just anytime he can get the chance, Zephyr will just drop some wards or body block the camps up and make it as hard as humanly possible for Yopaj. So T1, they've already kind of recognized that Yopaj is probably going to be the real win condition here for Boom Esports, and they're just doing everything in their power to make sure he cannot recover. Carl, a lot of damage being dealt here. Sideblade's flying out, but it's not quite enough. Tims will go for a bit of a chase here. He does have an Illuminate out, but it should not be enough damage, and it won't even connect. Carl's going to be okay. And still, First Blood is yet to be drawn.
Yeah, it's that chess match the panel pointed out, Mike. No one giving any openings, playing it safe. You know, we're just ticking down the clock. No moves, no E4 just yet, or C4 or D4, whatever chess opening there is. I always forget. That's why I'm bad at chess. But it is building up. You're seeing that network lead build up for T1. The Dusa, Gabby still #1 uncontested on that hero, having all the farm he'd asked for. Stacks are being built up in the jungle, much easier for T1. There is a forward ward from Boom to watch at. Whether or not they can invade, it's a different question. It doesn't feel like they're in a good position to really contest any stacks yet. I guess, again, one big thing is that Jackie is farming great. Vanguard up. Did use the Mana Void on Cuckoo with no kill. But he's also not being slowed down. It's just AM versus Dusa farming. Dusa's going to win out because you got to wait for that Battle Fury on the AM, and that takes a little bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, things just never change with this hero. Like, it's Battle Fury, and then you go on from there, but I mean, you never know. I saw some calls in the chat for a Diffusal Blade AM this game. Again, I think they are kind of relying on Yopaj to carry, so... Well, he has queued up the Battle Fury, so we're not going to get anything spicy like that coming out. I would have loved to see it, though, if it was a Diffusal Blade anti-mage. Still, looking back at Gabby again on the Dusa, I mean, he's just having a great time right now, John. Yopaj on the other side of things is not having the greatest time right now, but I mean, this Dusa having the freest game of his life. Great times here for T1. They are still trying to stack for Yopaj, but you've got to be careful. I mean, like you mentioned, they have a ward in that area, so at any moment they could intercept and try to take that triangle farm away from Boom Esports. And when you've got a Medusa, you're more than happy to try and do that.
You do want to just build up, and
oh, that's great for Gabby.
For T1. Oh.
That movement, John. Gabby just moving to the right, avoids the Illuminate.
Yeah, he is guessing really well. He already saw the earlier movement out to grab that rune, so just plays it safe. Still uncontested. Like, the stacks go cleanly towards Gabby, maybe some EXP share, not the biggest deal in the world for Dedusa, and this is just so much space. Like, they have this ward from Boom, but they can't make any moves. Their lineup has to wait for blinks, has to wait for item timings. We're not even close to level 6s on the supports. Big one would be the Treant with Overgrowth. So you don't have any play to give. And FBZ could try running up. He's just wanting to save for his blink. It's still taking time. Like, this slower laning start for Boom is going to give a lot of openings for T1 as we start to approach the 15-20 minute mark.
It's very interesting as well, though, right? Like, 10 minutes in, John, still no first blood being drawn, but the game feels so tense already. Feels like at any moment, one of these teams could pop that first blood and all hell could just break loose. You can really see how careful each team is and how much they respect each other. There's Carl. Husker just having a great time still. Yopaj still farming. Whitemon taking the top tier one, or rather just trying to protect it. Everyone just happy to play slow and wait for those mid-game timings. And I'm wondering as well, John, like, do you feel like T1 should just outright have the better mid-game timing?
It does feel like it. I think the Husker is going to be a massive problem to deal with unless your TA is ready.
They found Tim's. That'll be the first blood. Gabby able to take it on the Medusa. First blood finally drawn. And of all things, they give it to the top net worth Medusa.
Yeah, not the target you want to give that gold to. Gabby having a smooth run. Almost 6k net worth. All right about 1.3 above the next hero. A great time for Medusa. This is one of the freest Medusa games we've seen. And first blood at right around 11 minutes. Very auspicious for T1. T1, 11, first kill. Oh. Feeling good. You know, it's lighting up, Mike.
That's terrible. I mean, this analysis of yours is just getting worse and worse every time we cast. Yopaj. I mean, you gotta give props to the TA right now, Jonathan. I mean, Yopaj, he's second in net worth somehow. Like, how does that work?
He's managed to juggle the lane and the camps really well. He's just had really good presence. They haven't been able to pressure him with a Husker, which is where that pick really shines. It's dominated the lane, but hasn't really made any moves to slow down the TA. And besides that early movement from Whitemon, the triangle has been opened up. So there is recovery there for Yopaj. He is, again, hanging around 1.1 behind Ardu, so not too bad. Does have the early blink, so Yopaj can join some fights early and maybe start to contest some of the jungle. Does go into the top jungle, clears out, grabs the bounty, finally making use of that ward. No massive stacks left. And it is still a bit longer. Like, he is queuing up BKB, so it's blink BKB TA, understanding that the early timings have to be met here just to have some aggression on hand.
Bot lane, they might try to make a move here onto the AM, but Jackie, he's going to spot out Zephyr. Zephyr, he'll go for a bit of a chase, but won't end up throwing out the bushwhack. You saw Whitemon, John, doing one of your favorite things, which is life draining the Mars. And it's one thing, Cuckoo had no mana. Whitemon will hand the mana over.
That's such a fun hero. Look at that animation. Like, how can you hate this guy? He has the funniest little ult animation. I love it. And yeah, Cuckoo's back to full mana. The AM counter, perhaps? Especially if, you know, your Medusa gets jumped, life drain there, you know, that could be interesting. We'll see how much Whitemon can do, but it's that slower point of the game still, you know, both sides still farming. Battle Fury being built up by Jackie. I believe he is just lacking the Void Stone at this point. Has both swords already in. That is without power treads, but he will be able to match that Medusa farm. The question next for Boom Mike is, how do you share a farm with an AM and a TA? Because right now, Yopaj is taking priority. But once Jackie has his Battle Fury, surely he's going to need some jungle space as well.
Again, John, I'm not confident that the anti-mage is actually here to carry the game. I think his job is to just burn the Medusa's mana and let the TA carry. I know it's weird because he's just farming Battle Fury anyway, but you're going to need it to clear creeps, clear waves. In fact, smoke up, mid lane, Boom Esports. Looking for somebody to target in mid. Yopaj hoping somebody moves in for that creep wave as they do push it out. And looks like Zephyr will move in to try and take it, but FBZ is going to be there with the immediate Burrow Strike. Quick TP's out, but the FB Center is going to be there from FBZ. Still, they do go for the life drain. FBZ going to be healed up here from Tim's. Might just be able to survive, though the jump in from Carl's going to be out. And they will find a positive trade for T1. Boom Esports just trying to get a little bit too excited, but, you know, they end up giving a pretty decent kill away back to T1.
It's a pretty big rotation out from T1 to save themselves, but they find a bigger kill. They punish FBZ. That was the blink reveals of our TA and Sand King as well. So T1 should be ready to set up against that. And T1 are at a very good point with itemization as well. Carl has the Sanj, has the Armlet. Heaven's Halberd only 700 gold away. Your physical output on the TA suddenly gets cancelled by that item. And it already feels awful fighting against a Husker. He already has natural disarm with inner fire. That's a lot of time where you're just not getting hits out as a TA. So it just feels like T1's covered their bases really well. They've got the blink on Cuckoo as well with the arena, as was revealed in that last engagement. And all this time, Gabby's still farming like a madman. Still maintaining that 1.1k lead over Yopaj, still building up. Has the Manta up, going straight for a butterfly. You're missing shots already against the Husker. You're getting disarmed, and now you have evasion on the Medusa as well down the line. It just doesn't feel like the magical damage from Boom will do enough just because of that Pugna's existence. That little nut ward, 25% spell reduction, spell damage reduction. It's basically a free pipe aura almost at this point.
Certainly is. Top lane, Tim's. Scam gonna try and back off. Meanwhile, Wymon. It's like they're setting up for the Roshan attempt, and I suppose that is one thing you can get done with the Husker. Carl can basically just move in and solo Roshan, assuming there are no traps to scout that out. Of course, Boom are going to be heavily reliant on being able to find that Roshan too. Yopaj, whether he goes for the BKB or Deso first. If you go Deso, you definitely want the first Roshan. Well, he hasn't decided exactly what he wants first, though. I think you're safe to go Deso, but you have to secure first Roshan if you do.
For sure. You need to grab that objective. You need to have that secondary life. T1, they're clumping up with a smoke here. FBZ around FBZ to break.
Yeah. Nice positioning from FBZ. Gonna break the smoke, and they just... Well, actually, Jackie still almost getting caught out as FBZ. He's gonna go for an epicenter. Onto Gabby he goes. Zephyr is going to melt, but now the arena down. Cuckoo setting up very nicely onto the Sand King as they try to save, but it's not going to be enough. FBZ, he's still alive. He's going to walk out of there, and now Gabby, he's the one falling, but in goes Carl. He'll try to start another fight towards the south. Still Jackie will jump in along with FBZ on the Sand King. Carl will be fine. Meanwhile, Gabby still being chased down by Japoy, but they can't catch him. Gabby and Cuckoo barely able to get out. A very split up team fight, ending up in a 1-for-1. It is still in favor, however, of T1.
They're finding bigger trades. They're killing off FBZ, always trading away. Zephyr, you don't mind that at all. You save your Dusa. We are seeing the Whitemon's effect with Life Rain. Just a little bit more HP coming up for Dusa, allowing that little escape. And, you know, it's working out. 2-3, still a slower paced game, but we are seeing Boom start to take some angles, looking for that aggression. They know they want to play a little bit faster, want to slow down Dusa's pace. Not quite finding the best angles. We'll see if they manage to repair that. But unfortunately, Yopaj's bottle refill from FBZ didn't work out. I think it was in the backpack, so no top up for Yopaj as well. But they do take their position around the Roche, right? Like, they've still got good vision by the pit. They're preventing T1 from going for bigger objectives. T1 is still clumping up for the bot tower, and they should find Tims here.
They may. Tims, he'll get caught out with the bushwhack, and Zephyr is there with the sharpshooter into Cuckoo, who will have another spear. That'll be a great setup for T1, as now they can really go after that bottom T1. Of course, it is still going to be a bit of a headache going up against that Train Protector, but nevertheless, they'll eventually get it done. I keep looking at the net worth graph though, John. This Medusa, only 400 gold ahead of this TA, and Roshan's currently happening. Roshan's happening right now. T1 needs to get here right now to try and contest this. It's a big objective. But Boom, they're going to back off for now. They're not feeling quite safe. FBZ, he's got the Epi. He sees Whitemon. He'll move in for a Burrow Strike, but there's not going to be the backup. Not quite yet. Cuckoo, however, happily jumping in. It's going to be a very similar trade. As FBZ gives his life up for a support, but without the Sand King, it's going to be very hard to contest this Roshan. T1, they'll be happy with the trade as they move in for the Roche. Boom Esports, they're going to try and stick around and contest this. FBZ, he'd really rather not buy back. So they're going to try and delay this. Oh, Yopaj, hold on a minute. He's in with the meld. They don't know about this. They don't know he's in there. T1 are going to back off, though. Yopaj, could he somehow sneak this? Oh, he's going to try. He's going to try, but you've got the Acorn shot from Zephyr to give vision. If he throws it out, there's the spear, and that should have given enough information. Now the Acorn shot bushwhack is there, but it won't land. Roshan, 1.5k HP left. FBZ's back up for Boom. T1 still huddled around the Roshan pit, though, not willing to give this one up. FBZ, he gets bashed immediately. Oh boy, welcome back, FBZ. Zephyr and Whitemon still posturing. Both teams not feeling quite safe. There's Yopaj. He's still got that 9-second BKB available if they do break out for a team fight. I mean, Gabby's not even around right now. He's in the mid lane just farming. And both teams understanding how important this Roshan is, just cannot let it go. So Carl gonna take the trap out and try to move back in after Roshan. Still at about 1.3 HP is the Roche, as Carl is gonna move once again. In comes Gabby. He has Stone Gaze up. Roshan dropping low, but there's your Burrow Strike. FBZ's in. Arena down. But they've got the Aegis on Yopaj. The TA picks it up again as FBZ. He will drop Yopaj. Can he get himself out of here? He already popped the BKB. They get the overgrowth though, but the TA still in big trouble. Blinding Light is out from Tim's. That may be enough as Yopaj is still running, but the Bushwhack is in from Zephyr. And that's gonna be the TA gone. At least for the first life, but they should definitely have a second. They do lock him down until you get the Aegis the way of Boom Esports. But T1 still clean up.
Managed to clean up really nicely. They just have a lot to do in that fight. Once the BKBs fade, you're dealing with a Husker. You have multiple disarms on hand. You have a lot of good stuns coming out from supports. Whereas for Boom, their stuns really only from their Sand King and perhaps to an extent the overgrowth from Skem. That's not the shortest cooldown, and for Sand King, having just one stable consistent stun is just not enough compared to what T1 have. So they'll find that in mid-tier 1, and that entire time as well, Jackie was just farming, so he didn't even bother showing up, and that's one of the downsides of the aim. It's just not fight-ready in comparison to the Medusa. It doesn't have as much EHP, it's a lot easier to handle, and you will need that time to build up. So Jackie is overtaking and keeping up with Gabby, despite that slower start. The Battle Fury is starting to pay off. The Manta is coming out soon, and perhaps at that point, Jackie starts to feel a lot better joining in. You definitely need that AM to answer Medusa. You can't leave it all to Yopaj at this point. He just doesn't do enough. Without that Desolator, which is still a long ways off, he doesn't burst people fast enough outside of perhaps Whitemon and Pugna.
He certainly doesn't. I've got to say, John, I really appreciate the itemization here from Gabby going right into the Butterfly. So even if Jackie wants to get involved, it's going to be very hard to deal with the Medusa. This kind of item build he's going for. And of course, the Butterfly also very effective against the TA. So Gabby, you know, kind of just delaying anything like an Eye of Skadi build up and rather just going for that evasion. It's always going to feel very nice into the draft of Boom. Even going for the Silver Edge straight after can be very effective as FBZ. Bit of an aggressive position, but we'll be able to Burrow Strike away. T1 huddled up, not breaking formation. Just remaining around Gabby, putting their trust that the Medusa will eventually outscale the side of Boom Esports. Jackie. Cuckoo would love to catch out the AM. FBZ is going to be around. Cuckoo still chasing. Is going to find Skem. It's not quite the target you would have wanted, but you'll take it.
Yeah, you'll take the kill. It forces Boom away from their farming location. This is going to force Jackie all the way across the map to find some build-up. Treater 8, less than 1k lead still standing for T1. Boom keeping up, despite having a bit of a wonky set of exchanges in these fights. But you have to deal with this Medusa somehow. Like the Butterfly, as you mentioned, it's just super painful coming out from Gabby. The evasion just cuts off the output of Jackie. You don't tend to enjoy building the MKB on AM. It might feel necessary at some point just to consistently hit both the Husker and the Medusa. We'll see if that's something Jackie considers as he does finish up his Manta. So he is a little bit more protected. At some point, we've got to see that AM join it. Like, the big difference right now is that T1's running with Gabby in front. You know, they're running with him, joining in these fights, and he makes all the difference, making this a 5v4. And Boom just cannot keep up with the numbers.
You might catch the old Pugna right here as the side blades. Well, there you go, John. Apparently, side blades bounce off Netherward. There you have it. I didn't know that
beautiful. One. Very beautiful. Too bad. Decrep is a thing, so Whitemon's just perfectly fine. Skittles way as the little green man. Side of Boom, I don't know. Like, I don't know how long you're willing to wait for the AM and the TA. You do have the Deso up on Yopaj, so you do have that burst coming through. BKB still at the 8-second charge. But T1 are also fairly well protected. They've got a BKB up on Cuckoo. Their progression here on Carl is just ridiculous. AC up, along with a Halberd and the Armlet, instantly bursting him down with Meld minus armor, isn't as quick now, because he has so much more armor with that AC. Like that, the scaling of the minus armor doesn't feel as good. I don't think you are quite at the point where you have the Meld minus armor talent as well, although you definitely take the Dispel in most cases. So there's a lot T1 can play for, and that's why they're going for that smoke. They don't have the best vision, but they did spot out a little bit of movement from Scam down bot.
It's still not the kill you really want. The pings are coming out into the mid lane where they seem to believe Yopaj may be around, and he is. Cuckoo, he'll have his smoke broken. So that gives away the information. They never really see the TA in the first place. Instead, pings are coming out for Skem now, bottom side. Zephyr should be able to scan out the tree and no issues here with the Acorn shot, but no, he misses out. They don't get even Skem, but they will stick around for a bottom tier 2 tower. We'll see if Boom Esports want to try and defend this. TPs are coming. FBZ, you'll be the first one in. It's still very, very intimidating going into Cuckoo, who does jump in already, but Yopaj, he was too quick with the BKB out. Cuckoo, he'll pop his own now as Gabby is going to be there with the Stone Gaze. And that'll force them back, but maybe now Boom might feel confident to try and go for the fight without the Stone Gaze BKBs being available. This could be the opportunity. The tier 2 tower is still falling very slowly. The T1, they are not going to overstay their welcome. They understand they're at a disadvantageous position. They'll just leave the area.
Big benefit now for Boom is that Jackie is pretty much uncontested in farm. So while you're dragging your Deuce around, you're playing off the back of her. The AM is finding farm here. Bash her up. Abyssal next, not too far left for Jackie to hit those farming spikes, and he is taking priority over Yopaj. Yopaj is trying to play more tempo now, still working on towards the nullifier, not getting farm priority, not getting that safe lane farm where the action's not happening. But the build-up for T1 still steady, and despite the AM keeping up, Gabby finishes that full silver edge, has a nice crit, has a way of escaping. It just feels really comfy on that Dusa. And Boom still hasn't found a good angle to take these fights. Neither has T1 found any big fight in a recent time, but they have been winning bigger, finding FBZ a couple of times, whereas Boom still hasn't found more than support kills here.
Well, this game's just still so tense, Jonathan. I mean, 3-8 right now. Obviously, they have kind of just left Jackie alone, like you mentioned, and that could come back to bite them on the side of T1. And Gabby just working on towards a Satanic now, while Jackie does work towards an Abyssal Blade into an MKB. So it looks like he is trying to resolve the issue of that butterfly and the evasion that the Medusa is going to have. Fair enough. Obviously, Yopaj not at a stage where he can carry this game for Boom, so it is all relying on Jackie right now. The bot lane looks like a team fight has broken out, and they are going to find Yopaj. Meanwhile, top lane, even Carl trying to make the jump in on Jackie is not going to be able to hold on to him. They get one across the map. FBZ will move on to Whitemon, trying for the Pugna, but he's going to go for a life crane onto the anti-mage, and Cuckoo is going to show up. They won't even have the damage for the Pugna. But Cuckoo, he's still thinking about it. Does have the arena available, but won't throw it out in the end. Not yet.
And you're just seeing the effect of that Netherward, Mike. The damage reduction is just way too high. Again, it's like basically a free pipe aura. Like, it's just enough to knock off the Sand King from bursting down these softer supports. He doesn't have level 18 yet, so it's not the max potential in the Epi. It feels like you're going to need that if you want to have any hope of even just melting a Pugna. And they're just going to group up bot again on T1. 3-9, less than 1k lead. They are slowly sieging away. They will be able to trade, but Jackie is trying to split push top.
He is. The T3 tower under siege, but Zephyr is going to be around to defend. T1, they'll be satisfied with the fact that they got the bottom tier 2 now. I'll take the outpost over on the Radiant side, and we'll pretty much own both outposts for now. Again, Jackie just not at the stage where he really wants to fight yet. I think you are at minimum waiting for the MKB before you really want to get going. Though a big line has been drawn out. T1 going for a 4-man smoke. Through the Roshan pit they go. Skem, though, already in a great position to break the smoke and tank the gank. And that should be enough to give Jackie the info to back off right away. And it will be. T1, they won't find the opening.
Boom are still hanging around, but they are protected by that ward. So they aren't maybe going to force the issue. They are collapsing towards the area, but they think twice. Interesting build-up from Jackie. He has shifted gears here, Mike. Going for the BKB. Playing risky, but does manage to blink away. And yep, BKB over the MKB. So he does want to join in earlier and just wants to avoid a lot of its spell damage, a lot of control T1 has. It does still mean that you're losing a lot of DPS onto the Dusa with a butterfly. And again, there's always just the evasion from the Husker as well with Halberd. It's just really annoying. So we'll see how much he can get with the BKB. He will get the MKB afterwards, but if you are getting the BKB first, it does feel like you will want to jump in regardless and force the fights here.
It just seems like he wants to keep surviving till he's basically 6-slotted. This reminds me of pretty much any AM game. They just want to farm forever. It's Boom Esports. They'll go for a 5-man smoke up now, and even without the BKB, it seems like Jackie is going to get involved this time around. Into T1 they go. White one already in position on the Pugna to try and break the smoke, but they are going to wrap around the long way here. Boom Esports might run right into Carl. That'd be a great pick off if they could find it. Instead, right now, they are going to focus on Zephyr because that's the only hero they can see on the map. And that should be a free kill here for Boom. Eventually, if they have detection. And they will. Skem comes in to save the day. Even buys a gem straight after. He's not having that crap happen again.
Yeah, he's like, no, we're not going to do this. We're just going to have a gem. We're going to be ready. T1 in a good position to kind of force a fight, though. They're in a really good spot in their jungle. Semi-high ground part, and they will smoke here.
They've got a Satanic on Gambi, John. Just spawned out. Roshan has also spawned up, and this will be the second Roshan of the game. Again, Roshan's so important in a series like this. FBZ should be able to go scout it out. Cuckoo not going to be able to land the spear. Very quick reactions from both teams so far this game one. The issue with Roshaning right now, if you're T1 though, is you're always going to have the problem of Jackie just split pushing lanes. That's exactly what he's doing as we speak. It's just so hard to catch out an anti-mage anyway. And Jackie, he'll just keep split pushing side lanes. Eventually, Boom will try to find an opening for that second Roshan. T1 just so wary not to give that away for free.
Yep, gotta be cautious. They are still clumped up around that area, running down mid. Have a really good position to just keep eyes on Roche. They've got the ward on their ramp side as well, so they're fairly secure. Boom, using this time well to farm. Yopaj making progress, Nullfire all done, so it should be easier to handle someone like Pugna. It's going to be able to take away the decrep. Much easier time for them to focus in on a hero and just get started. Just need to find an angle. It's such a close game, 4-9, 1k lead for T1. It really is a chess match here as the BKB's finished up on Carl, so he's going to be a lot more confident in his front line as well. He actually sells and goes for the Ags instead, so you've got the taunt and life break. That's really going to make it painful for the AM or the TA to even have a chance to fight here.
There's the Ags up. In the meantime, FBZ backing off away from Gabby, but I do agree with you. I mean, you need some kind of lockdown, some kind of initiation to take down Jackie, and that taunt may make all the difference now. It does last for 3 seconds, don't forget. It's a very long duration. And T1, they're going to wrap around through the Radiant Triangle, trying to sneak up behind, but a great scan from Boom. They know exactly where they are. Just reading the map very well. Jackie's going to buy a BKB out now, and they might try to force this fight. Gabby, he'll move in, but FBZ, he's broken the smoke and moves in with the epicenter. But who have they got? It's going to be Whitemon on the backside. Yopaj, he tries to jump in with the nullifier, but now he's been caught out with a bushwhack. He might just drop, and he does. So far, so good for T1. If they'll chase for a bit more now, they'll find Skem, and all they lose is Whitemon, as they've even found another, and it's going to be FBZ on the Sand King, who tries to run away, but in the meantime, Zephyr, he will also drop to Jackie. FBZ still going to try to run, but gets taunted by Carl. Another win for T1, and this might just open up Roshan for them.
It's a big opening for T1. Still a couple of buybacks here for Boom. They still have Overgrowth as well from Skem. He didn't manage to use that, but he does lose the gem. That's on Carl. That's on Cuckoo now. So he's going to be able to spot out a lot better, spot out wards, get some info out. And Roche doesn't take too long when you have a Husker, of course. So they're just going to be able to take it just fine. A shard up there as well. And we'll hand that over to Carl. So fully kitted out. Inner fire upgrade as well. And it just feels like a really good game for T1 now. They've got a solid lead of 5k. We haven't seen that impact of the AM in the middle of fights. Jackie's not able to focus on the Dusa because there's so many issues here. Like, how do you handle the Husker? Even if you can handle Dusa, Carl is way too big on this hero. Number 3 network isn't much, but it's enough for a Husker with his skill set. And we're just seeing Yopaj forced to jump in only on a Pugna. It's not the target you want to go for. It takes way too long to kill. And the follow-up control is always there from T1.
T1 have just played this game 1 to perfection so far, not really allowing any openings whatsoever. And now Jackie, what a spear out from Cuckoo. He's going to land it on the AM, but do they have enough control? The bushwhack will land into the sharpshooter, but I don't think they have the damage. Oh, had Carl been around on that Husker, it would have been a different story, but he was not there. Still Jackie getting a glimpse of death there for a moment as T1 take down the top tier 1 tower, and they'll move in for the second. They'll even have Passion now up on Carl.
I love it. Ranged Basher. Here we go. Carl feeling it. Feeling great. Eventually into the Abyssal. That's where it feels a lot better. Basher to BKBs. The spell immunity coming out here for Jackie and for Yopach isn't going to feel great. Sieging onto the high ground. Aegis still to protect the Deuce. So this is a rough time for them. They have good high ground defense. They really need to find a good angle with the Overgrowth and the Burrow Strike epicenter here.
It's really smart itemization though from T1. Like going back to the Basher, once you have the Abyssal Blade up, as soon as that taunt ends onto Jackie, you just stun him with an Abyssal Blade. It makes enough sense. You just need more lockdown for the anti-mage, and that's about all T1 want, as FBZ is going to try and jump in. Spears off the mark in the backside. Jackie, he gets caught out. He'll pop the BKB with the taunts there. They've got the control, and they've got Jackie down. He's got no buyback. Oh, and here goes Yopach. He will be the third to drop without buyback as well. Oh, and suddenly T1, it looks like they've got 2 Raxes. In fact, they're going for T4 towers now. Gabby, understanding they may not have buyback at the moment, are going to move in for the jugular straight off the bat, and they might just get away with it as tips are coming out from Carl. Onto the TA. Get those mind games going straight off the bat, John, here for game number 1. Is this game just over? Epicenter Burrow Strike is out. FBZ, he's going to try one last time. Carl, he'll make the jump in though and just takes him out. Oh boy. T1. Yeah, GG's call, they'll take it. Game number 1 of this best of 3 will go the way of T1. And it was a rather slow, methodical game, Jonathan, but you've got to give it to T1. They just make no mistakes.
They play so clean. They have this amazing draft that comes out. They bait out the TA. They almost bait out that AM as well. Counter picking with a Husker, having a great lane mid to handle the TA, having this big core that's very hard to burst down in the Mars and in the Husker. Like, T1 just plays so perfectly. They draft so well. Whitemon on the Pugna though, I really like what he was doing. All those life drains made me so happy, and T1 just played great. Now, Boom aren't out of it. Again, last time they met in the DPC tour, the first tour, they did lose 0-2, but when it came to regional finals, you know, they were knocked down, and then they beat them in grand finals. Boom has what it takes to beat T1. We've just got to see if they get caught in the drafting trap, because it did feel like T1 kind of baited him into some of those picks there, Mike.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, at the end of the day, game 1, it's a slow game, but you know what that means, John. Game 2 and game 3, if there is a game 3, is probably going to be very aggressive and very fast-paced between these two teams. Now, they like to switch it up in SEA. So with that, it is MLP Dirt on johnxfire. We'll head to a very short break, and right after that break, we'll be back with our lovely panel for game number 2's draft.